Hello, everyone. It is 9 o'clock on a Thursday night here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Even though it's kind of late for us, it's early for our guests, so I guess that's just how things go. So, again, thank you for tuning in. Those of you that are watching this after the fact, thank you as well. Everybody's important here. You know that. This we're trying to get this young lady for a while here, and we were able to make it happen. So without further ado, it's Jasmine. I know.
Hi.
Hi, Jasmine. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm very good.
Good. And how do you pronounce your last name, Jasmine?
Oh, Shojai.
Oh my God, I had it right. I was like, oh, it's Jasmine Shojai, and I'm like, I know there is no way that's how you pronounce her name. But I was right. Awesome. So thank you so much for joining. I know you are in Australia, and it's Friday morning, which is crazy. But if you'd like, why don't you take a moment and introduce yourself to everyone, please?
Yeah, so my name is Jasmine Shojai. I'm a model and aspiring actress in Australia, and most people best know me for being awarded Australia's top glamour model of 2017 and 2018, and for being a Playboy playmate and Playboy cover model.
Yeah, I'm sure. So that's awesome. So in terms of modeling, how did you start? Like at what age, and what were the first steps?
I started modeling when I was 21 years old. I kind of just got right into it. It was a spontaneous decision at the time, but it was
Mm-hmm.
something that I really wanted to do for me. I wasn't exactly thinking, oh, let's just start a new career. But it was a spontaneous decision, not only because I really wanted to try it, but I came out of domestic violence 6 months prior, actually. And
I'm sorry to hear that.
I really wanted to just do something nice. And for me, it was all about moving forward. And yeah, I did my very first photo shoot and I never looked back since. I really enjoyed it. So it was just the start of something very good.
Gotcha. So you were 21. I'm just guessing, was that like a year and a half ago?
Oh no, that was 5 years ago now.
Okay. All right. Well, you look great. At the ripe old age of 26, I guess you're really bucking trends. No. So what was your first modeling job, and how were you interested and you just said, screw it, I'm going to go do it? Or,
Well,
how did you find it?
at the time, my friend and my boyfriend, my new boyfriend, and I really wanted to do something that I guess was nice for me. In fact, it was my idea, and I told him that, let's go and if you can, like, please support me. And so he did, and it was just a really fun day. It was a lingerie shoot, actually. I wanted to do something empowering at the time as well. And funny enough, like, I was talking with the photographer at that stage about, oh, what do people do if they want to become a model? Like, do they take these images somewhere? And she gave me a little bit of advice, but it wasn't actually until I was scouted maybe 6 months later by an industry professional that really got me started into modeling. And they really helped me get started into glamour modeling.
Mhm.
So it was at that point, a bit later, where things started to get really interesting. And it's funny how things move on one to another, but I always look back and I think, I guess I was ready for it. But at the same time, I kind of found it funny that things just kind of place themselves at that point, because I remember when I was scouted, I was actually, kind of sick at the time. So I was at home, I wasn't doing anything, so I had all this time to talk to them and talk about my goals. So it was
Mhm.
very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. It's like when great things start happening, you're like, is this a setup? You're just, especially, it sounds like maybe coming out of a dark period where, you maybe don't trust everything that's happening so quickly. Um,
Mm. I
uh,
guess it
can
was sort of like that, but I was kind of ready to try something new. So
Yeah. So how long were you modeling before you realized, you know what? I might be pretty good at this, or this might be something I want to do.
I think it was just over a year, really, from when I first began my very first photo shoot. So it was, again, with a little bit of help and advice from other professionals. I kind of took that in, and I really
Mhm.
just, made positive decisions. The funny thing is, like, a lot of people come out of dark places or events, and they don't necessarily do anything, or they might not feel like doing positive things. But for me, it was like I came out of it and I wanted to not only do positive things, but I also was willing to learn. So I was taking in all the advice and all the little tips that people told me, and I really did take them in. And it goes to show, if you actually listen, you can, really gain a lot.
Yeah, that is amazing, isn't it? Yeah, I see it all the time. People that, you know what, I just don't get this. Well, if you'd shut up for a minute and listen, just give it 5 minutes, it would be amazing, how much you'd pick up. Um, So, how long until Playboy called? I don't even know if that's a thing. Does Playboy call and say, "Hey, we saw your pictures"? How does that work?
I know that the main Playboys, specifically Playboy USA, does a lot of call outs, but for the most part, I remember, signing up to some agencies and getting their help by pushing me forward to these major publications. So out of all the men's magazines, my very first, from memory, very first major publication would have been Maxim USA. So that was online, but it definitely brought a lot of exposure, and it made me learn. That also made me learn about how big the internet world is.
Hmm.
As they were saying, there's a lot of rumors going around now that a lot of magazines everywhere and every genre are switching to online rather than print. But I was amazed just how much exposure I could get just by being placed on Maxim USA in their website and so on.
Yeah, and actually, to go back a little, because that's how my brain works. I'm like tape delayed. You said you did get a lot of advice and you listened to a lot of people. What would you say was the best piece of advice that you got for the stage of your career that you were in?
There was a lot of bits of advice that I remember very well, but the first one that comes to mind right now, and this was at the very beginning when I actually, took the time to meet an industry professional and, speak face to face. And I hadn't even done any major shoots by that stage. And I remember them saying, if you're going to do anything, do it right. Otherwise, you may as well not do it at all. And for some people, they might not quite get that, but for me, it made so much sense, because if I'm going to do a career, even if it is modeling, where, you don't necessarily have to, go to university or something, but you still have to do the correct steps and have the correct training and have the correct portfolio and so on and so
Mhm.
on. And sometimes I think people can forget that when it comes to creative arts. They think, oh, it's just this, so I don't need to study for it or anything.
Right, just show up and be pretty or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people, not everybody, of course, but I think some people can get the wrong idea about being a creative. They think it's very easy, but there's actually a lot to it. I mean, if you want to be a professional at something, there's a lot of work and training involved.
Yeah, yeah. I have never been and probably will never be a glamour model. But I have done some acting and things like that. And what I see in that world a lot is once you get probably to the level that you are, and even the level you were, everybody is beautiful. Everybody has great clothes and makeup, et cetera, et cetera. And at that point, it's almost like your attitude, your timely.
It's definitely has been amazing to work with Playboy and many other brands, including Maxim. So yeah, to this very day, I'm still, very proud of everything that I've done, and I'm very honored.
Yeah, I don't blame you. So you grew up in Australia, right?
Hmm.
So was Playboy, like, was that your first nude or, topless photo shoot?
I had done some previous work before, but not really, really. It was more or less just, private work. It wasn't something
Mhm.
that was going to be published as such. And, Playboy really kind of brought me more out of my shell. Like, I knew what glamour modeling was about. I knew what art modeling was about. It was all about, looking beautiful, looking sensual. And yeah, no, Playboy definitely, boosted my confidence. It definitely made me feel more empowered. And I still remember my first Playboy cover shoot. So that was for Playboy Croatia. Yeah, it was just simply amazing. And there was like a lot of people on set at the time. So it was a little bit, I was a little bit nervous being undressed, in front of all these people at first. But, as I got through it, it was just so much fun.
Yeah, and the reason I asked about Australia, I imagine pretty much the United States has, these notions or stigmas attached with nudity. You can watch, the news at 12 o'clock noon, and you could see a river of blood going down Main Street, and that's just fine. But God forbid you show a boob. Is it a different? Is Australia a little bit more, progressive thinking like a lot of Europe is regarding nudity and things?
I think it really depends. I mean, if I was going to speak to a lot of people, not necessarily in the industry, but, outside the industry, a lot of people have mixed feelings. And it was actually really funny. Like, I remember seeing some stuff on the news, and, everyone has different beliefs, and that's fine. But at that time, there was a group of, mainly women actually, who were, I guess, activists against how women should be, portrayed. And there was actually like a lot of debate based on these beliefs about how women should be published in magazines and even in other events. I'm pretty sure there were some events cancelled where they used promotional models because of that. And I mean, like I said, everyone has a different belief, but at the
Yeah,
same time, I feel if you want to pose in a bikini and you really love that and you really enjoy that and it makes you feel good, then there shouldn't be anything or anyone outside telling you otherwise. So
yeah,
I
I
kind
agree.
of understood that these people had their beliefs, but then I kind of felt that based on my own beliefs, or even based on a lot of other models, it'd be terrible to have people tell you every day, oh, like, you know, you shouldn't be doing that. It will make you look bad. Because then that, as you can tell, that sounds very opinionated. It doesn't really bring much positiveness out of it.
Yeah. And, you kind of have to consider, look bad to whom? To you? Like, would you think I'm a great person if, I wasn't in these magazines? And also, how do you know I was in the magazine if you're so against them?
Exactly. It was so funny. Like all the time, with creatives and even with, some of my friends, we kind of laugh at the comments some random people make on social media. Like they go onto these pages or even on celebrity pages and they say, oh, you look terrible. And then it's like, but why do you go there in the first place? You know what I mean? Like you still have to physically go there on your phone or go there on your
Right.
computer, look at these things. So it's kind of funny, because I suppose if you really don't like something or don't agree with it, you'd be the last person to even go there.
Right. Yeah. To even go there and then to take the time and effort to make a comment, attach your name to it. Um, yeah, I agree. It often seems that the people that are most outspoken about things like that, first off,
Mm,
there's a good reason why they're upset that you're taking your shirt off in a magazine. Um, my guess is the next person that asks them if they'd like to would be the first. So, it is, just like it goes both ways. Those
mm,
people that are saying, hey, this sort of thing is bad and it's bad for society or whatever. Well, who says that what you're doing and your thing? I mean, look where society is running it your way. Let's try it ours, you know?
mm.
So, how did it go? Like with the people that you knew, your friends and family and things? Was that over Easter holiday? You say, "Hey guys, guess what I'm doing tomorrow?"
I mean, I remember with my modeling, at least when it came to my family, I was a little bit more low key. And I mean, admittedly, it took them a little bit longer to understand that what I was doing was positive and a very good experience for me. Because, like you said, a lot of people have their different opinions and thoughts and so on. And a lot of people don't really quite understand the industry and what really happens. I
Sure.
think sometimes there's too many movies that just portray the bad side of things, which honestly rarely happen, or they don't happen as much as people may think they do. So for the long run, for a while, my family was, I guess, a little bit skeptical of what I was doing. But I guess when they kind of saw my success and my happiness appearing more and more, they started to see what kind of positivity that really brought out of me. And yeah, for my friends, they thought it was really cool. To this very day, I still communicate with friends from even a few years back, and they're always saying that, "Wow, you seem to be doing a lot," and so on. And yeah, it's great to receive such positive feedback, and it's definitely, for the most part, I think people have been very liberal about, these sort of things. I don't think people are so strict anymore to the point where it's like, oh my gosh, you were you were nude in a magazine, for example. Like you
Right.
rarely hear that, or at least from what I've seen, I've rarely seen that happen. And going back to social media, I think sometimes people use social media as a platform just to get attention. So I feel for, again, the most part, I feel when people do go out and comment such negative or irrational things, it's more or less just to kind of bring attention to themselves or whatever they're trying to do. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. The social media is really a beast in and of itself. Because I don't know, it's been a long time. If I ever, I don't know that I ever thought of Playboy or the pictures therein as sexual in nature. They're they're not. I mean, they're beautifully photographed, you know, carefully staged, beautiful pictures. And certainly there are some magazines and things that are, on the other side of it that are very clearly, sexual nature, which whatever, that's fine too. But, Playboy just doesn't seem to me to have that stigma of like pornography or things like that. Is that something that you have found, or do people still think that, if you're not wearing a belt, it's pornography?
No, I entirely agree with that. Like, Playboy has really portrayed the beauty and sensual side of women, and I mean, honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. Again, I think people can be very opinionated, and they can just think so many different things about women being pictured, nude or even close to nude in magazines. But again, I think that really comes down to personal beliefs. I think for the most part in the entertainment industry, in the creative industry, Playboy has been such an amazing and beautiful platform. A lot of women, or I'd say pretty much 99% of women who have posed with Playboy have felt so empowered and so positive. So it's definitely a positive brand and a positive platform as well.
Cool. Have you ever been to the Playboy Mansion?
No, I haven't. Like, I've known
Me
so
either.
many people in the US, surprisingly more, that and they've been there, they've attended some parties, and it's it's funny because I think they've since Hugh Hefner passed away, I think it doesn't really happen anymore. I'm not too sure, but it was definitely on my to-do list.
Yeah. Well, I guess that makes two of us that won't be going, Jasmine.
Well, who knows? Maybe they'll come up with something.
Sure. All right. Well, yeah, I'm going to keep my calendar open, just to
So
be safe. Cool.
yeah, never say never.
Right. You don't want to close the door on anything. So what are you doing now? I know you have the show on Daily Motion, right?
Yes, yes.
Cool. So what's that all about? I checked it out, and you lost me at your hair and makeup tips. But I'm sure I'm not exactly your target audience there.
I think it's definitely a developing show, the reality web series. So it's something that my team and myself are strongly working on, especially behind the scenes. We're coming up with so many ideas that we can work with. I think by far the biggest letdown as such was the coronavirus, and I think that really pushed us back. And it was really funny because we were, based on the rules, of course, with COVID-19 and what have you, we were allowed to start filming. I think it was like, end of April. And for the most part, you couldn't have anyone besides me and the person who was filming. So it was kind of like, this isn't
Yeah.
really much of a show here. It was not as much as we'd like to, but it's definitely a developing project. We have a lot of plans for it in the near and far future. So, yeah, I say with full confidence, it's just going to be something that gradually gets better. But at the same time, it's something that I really wanted to do because I felt that it was beneficial in a way for my fans to see what I get up to behind the scenes. And I think the reality web series goes more in depth rather than just the behind the scenes videos. So I think it was a really good opportunity for me to do that, but also to learn and keep growing, because I kind of looked at the clips and thought, wow, I did this, I did that. I was kind of learning even more about myself and what I was doing. So
Sure.
it's definitely a developing project, but at the same time we're very enthusiastic about it.
Yeah. So I had seen online there was kind of a big hubbub about you kind of speaking out about women on social media and things, just putting all their stuff out there for free. And one of the articles I saw, it was just very clearly written from that other side of the fence. But I mean, what I took from it was, look, this is what I do for a living. And, if you're giving it away, if you're giving milk away, no one's going to buy the cow. And I'm a goddamn farmer, for Christ's sake. You could probably say that better than I did. Do you want to clarify like how that went and how that did it get blown out of proportion? I don't even know. It's didn't happen
I
here.
think it definitely did get blown out of proportion. And from memory, like, yeah, it definitely did. At the same time, people, as you can imagine, post whatever they like on social media. And I remember speaking to the reporter and saying it's not so much about controlling what other people do. It's just more or less, speaking out with my voice and saying what it has done. It's sort of like a domino effect. When people just do what they do on social media and, there's no boundaries, it makes a lot of individuals and even proper companies not be able to make profit. So it was just purely from the business side of things.
Yeah.
So I have a pay-to-view subscription site, and I'm very honored that fans are going there because I understand that there's a lot of free content, and sometimes people just rather view stuff for free. So, thank you so much to my fans, for who are paying to view some of my exclusive content, because for me, not only is that a one stream of income, it's also it's very comforting for me in a way. It goes to show that what I'm doing still matters, and that's how I feel as a professional. Because like you were saying, from a farmer's point of view, like I think automatically you might feel that you're a letdown, or you might just feel upset if nobody is going out to purchase what you have to offer, even though that's your profession. So it's very hard nowadays. Sometimes, I guess it depends really, for models or even brands to get people to pay for certain things, because if they can get it free somewhere on the internet, then a lot of people would rather do that.
Yeah. And it seems that also with paid content, especially in your situation, I don't know if it's the only way, but it's probably the best way for you to control your image and your brand, right? Because something's free on the internet. Who the hell knows where it's going to end up, what message it's going to be tied to. So at least if someone gets something directly from you, you're in control of that, the message and, the image and things like that. Have you seen, has anything like that happened to you where, an image or your likeness was taken and used for something that frankly you would never have allowed?
Like I've seen, a lot of websites reshare my photos. Funny enough, it hasn't been also negative. Like I've seen a few quotation marks negative stuff come out, like where I've seen websites maybe publish me and a whole bunch of other girls, and they haven't really credited or tagged anyone properly, or I've had some impersonation accounts use my image, but I haven't personally seen anything so negative. The couple of times where I've seen my images used, they've like grabbed my information from somewhere and just done a free promo for me, and I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. So it's funny when that happens,
Yeah.
because it's kind of like, in a sense, free advertisement. But I can understand sometimes the way, you know, your images are displayed and portrayed isn't the way that you would like it to be. And I'm very thankful that I haven't seen anything negative, but I think every model, even every actor or actress, has to kind of be aware of that. But then I kind of thought maybe it just comes with the territory, because I've seen it so many times where you've seen fake articles about celebrities, and
That's how you know you made it, right?
yeah, exactly. So, and half the time you don't even believe them because of how ridiculous they are, but they're still there. So,
Right. And someone believes it, sadly, someone out there surely believes that you got kicked out of McDonald's at 3:30 in the morning because you were drunk and wouldn't leave the bathroom. Fake news, everyone. I just made that up. But
no, exactly. So there's there can be just a lot of silly stuff out there.
yeah. So, kind of along the lines of, your reality web series and, just having artistic control over your own image and your own content. What do you think of sites like OnlyFans and things like that, where, I mean, look, it's 2020. Those people are models too, I guess. So how do you feel about content sites like that?
I fully support them. People just have to have a good business sense and be aware of the pros and cons of those websites. But I think a general rule is if you wouldn't display your work the way you would on, say, social media or um, on online in general, even in person in a gallery, you wouldn't do it then on OnlyFans, if that makes sense. So, like,
You shouldn't then.
exactly. So you just have to know what you want to do and what you want to achieve. And if you can make money through OnlyFans in a way that you like, then by all means, go for it.
Yeah, yeah. That's a great point. And probably, I think a lot of people, especially younger people like you, and even younger, there's a permanency about the internet that you just don't think about, especially, in a private ish, encounter like that, probably some people think, well, where's this going? This isn't going anywhere. This is, something that I'm sharing with one person. And unfortunately, on the internet, there's no such thing as that.
No, exactly. It honestly doesn't take much for things to be leaked, as much as I hate to admit that. But I guess it all comes with the territory. There's no such thing as no risk. You just need to hope that I mean, everyone has haters. Haters are out there. So
Even I do.
I mean, if you are worried about something or someone in particular, or, then that's when you might need to step back and say, okay, I need to be careful here. But in saying that, I'm also a big supporter of, staying safe and a friendly environment. So it doesn't matter how famous you are. Harassment and cyberbullying is not acceptable. I don't think people just have the right to do anything nasty just because somebody is super popular or famous, for that matter. I think people need to know what's right and wrong. Unfortunately, people don't have that barrier sometimes. So if a model or actress or actor is being harassed on social media, then to me, that's, again, cyberbullying, that just needs to stop. So again, like, it's just being aware of what's right and wrong, and it's being aware of the principles. So not letting stuff like cyberbullying happen is probably something everyone or every industry professional should still have in the back of their mind.
Yeah, that would be nice. Because it's, unfortunately, it's something that's out of a lot of our control. And it's probably something that not a lot of us think about until it starts happening to us. And then, it is a different story. I actually have an interview tomorrow morning because it's 9:30 at night here. But I have an interview tomorrow with a gentleman who does storyboards for Hollywood and things. But before that, he got bullied and he actually sued the parents of the kids that were bullying him. So I don't know the rest of the story. I've got to read up on it. I don't want to ruin it, but it is a big problem. And, it's like everything else since I was that age. I'm sure it's changed a lot, and I'm sure the internet has changed it. When I was in high school and someone wanted to spread a rumor or whatever, well, it can only go so far, but now
Now
it's
it can spread like wildfire. I mean, depending. But I used to be cyberbullied a little bit in my teenage years, and it was definitely not a good feeling, especially for a very young girl who, admittedly, I wasn't as confident or as wise back then as I am now. So it was very nerve-wracking. It was basically scary because half the time I didn't even know what to do. But obviously now as an adult, that's completely different. And for most adults, that's the same case. But then again, like, doesn't matter what age you are or what profession you do, or even if you just have a personal account online, it's just, yeah, it's wrong when people cyberbully or just basically harass. I mean, there's so many news stories where I've heard very young children, as young as like 12, take their own lives because of stuff like that. And it's definitely not funny at all.
yeah, no, I can find humor in just about anything, but yeah, that's really, you can cut it any way you want. It's not funny. And
Mm.
um and especially with younger people, in that age range, something like that happens and they think their world is over. I'm sure that you had something happen to you when you were 12, 13, 14, whatever, that you just said, oh my God, my life is over. I'm never going to recover from this, getting caught cheating on my algebra test or whatever, and then 3 weeks later, no one gives a shit because no one remembers. But when you're younger, those types of things do take on a much higher significance.
Oh, definitely, by far. And again, you're younger, you don't have as much experience, you're still growing up. And for the most part, you're not as confident. In fact, you might not even have enough knowledge within you to understand what's right and what's wrong, or what the principles are. And therefore, you are just scared and not really knowing what to expect. And like I can definitely say, for me, as the more I grew up, the more wiser I became and understood these sort of things. But I guess, yeah, for the most part, sometimes people take it too far on social media, and they almost just don't care, if that makes sense. And
Yeah,
going back
absolutely
to
it does.
exactly, and then going back to making income as a model, a lot of people, again, just do whatever they want on social media. But I guess the biggest negative effect that I can think of when it came to brands, models, and all sorts of creatives, even photographers, was that it made it more challenging for these sort of professionals to then make money off their income, especially seeing that making money online has now become the new norm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone's a model and everyone's an actor and everyone's whatever you want to be. Really, in terms of that online medium. And, probably you take the whole confluence of being young and impressionable and, also the spur of the moment. Hey, there's a camera. You never know where, when, or what that thing that you did that one time, comes back, I'm not going to say to haunt you, but comes back and you say, geez, that really was pretty stupid.
Mm,
So I think that your, kind of your rule of thumb, which may sound, boring or old fashioned or whatever, probably is the best one. That, look, if you wouldn't want to see this image of yourself doing whatever you're doing or saying whatever you're doing, don't put it out there, because you're the one putting it out there. Um,
mm, mm. I
so
entirely agree. And sometimes we live in such a busy lifestyle that I guess we don't really think before we do. So that can sometimes happen as well. I mean, at the end of the day, you can always delete content, but I guess you would hope that it's not somewhere else by the time you delete it.
right, and if it's that good, it is somewhere else. Um,
Exactly.
yeah. So what's next? And I don't mean that like, well, this is done, but, kind of what's on the horizon for you. You're going to continue to model, I'm sure, and you've got your reality show, the reality web series on Daily Motion. Anything else that you're feeling out, or any plans that you have for the future?
The funny thing is, I completed maybe half or even maybe 75% of my goals for this year. For me, there's a lot of things that I want to do, but at the same time, I don't want to rush it. That's something I learned this year. Funny enough, COVID-19 really made me rethink what I'm doing and what life is all about. So for me now, it's just taking one step at a time, seeing what other wonderful opportunities there is for me. And by all means, yes, I'm going to continue modeling. I'm going to progress as an actress and, apply for more roles, put myself out there. So there's definitely a lot going on. But long story short, I'll have my web series on the side. I'll have that getting better and better. So there's a lot actually in place. Like behind the scenes, my team and I have whole bunch of paperwork and a whole bunch of offers and stuff coming in. So it's great that things are actually getting much busier despite what has happened. So I'm very happy with how things have come. I think for the most part, and I will admit this, even myself, but I think this was the case with a lot of people, kind of thought it would be the end of the world for a little while, when all of these global events started happening. So yeah, I'm definitely happy with how things are going, and there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, it was easy to think that, quote unquote, the world was ending, because nothing was as we were used to it. We almost needed to relearn how to do everything that we had taken for granted. I mean, I used to be really good at grocery shopping. Now I've got to bring a bag, I've got to bring a mask. It's like, holy shit. Like, it's just, it is a lot different. So like, how do you vet the projects that you get involved in? Whether it's acting, again, I don't know how it works in the modeling world, where you might look at a project and say, is this really something that I should be doing? Like, I know as an actor, you probably read some scripts and say, as much as I would love to be involved in this project, it's awful, and you wouldn't say that to somebody's face, but you would know yourself, this isn't what I want to be known for. So is that something you do, or is that something, your agent kind of is the first line and then might say, hey, Jasmine, here's a few things to take a look at?
Yeah, like my agent is always the first one to get things in, as they're the first point of contact. And then we kind of discuss things together and see if this is suitable, and then when is it if it's possible to go ahead with. Time-wise, I've been very organized this year, funny enough. But again, you know, we had a lot of concerns at the beginning because of what was obviously happening in the background.
Mm-hmm.
But I think moving forward, things have definitely picked up. There's been a lot of modeling going on, actually. I was very surprised about that. But then again, I wasn't, in a way, because I think for photo shoots, you know, again, going back to COVID-19 and how many people are allowed to gather together and stuff, I think for photo shoots that was a lot easier. So a lot of commercial shoots, a lot of, you know, all sorts of photo shoots were like going ahead as early as, you know, May or June from what I saw. So it was amazing to like really get back into modeling and do a variety of different projects and different shoots, because that for me was just happiness, because I was really glad to kind of get out of lockdown and do something productive.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been doing a lot of magazine work, actually, so that was really good.
What was the hardest shoot that you ever did? Whether it was grueling physically or, you know, it was just very demanding of you. Does anything come to mind?
Um, Not really. Like, I think for the most part, most of the sets have been very positive. I think if anything was difficult, it was at the beginning when I was still learning and not really an experienced model. Those times are obviously more difficult per se, because I was, again, not as skilled or knowledgeable as I am now. But I think for the most part, if anything strenuous, it's usually photo shoots that go on for a very long time. And I've done like modeling workshops or events as such where, you know, a model is hired to be the subject for a photography workshop. And for that, it's like you're posing for several different people without disturbing someone else's shot at the same time. And you're usually doing a variety of different looks and a variety of different studio sets. And that can, you know, you could be there for maybe up to 6 hours. So that
Sure.
can be physically strenuous, if anything.
Now, when you do a modeling shoot, do you see the pictures like that day?
Sometimes I do, if, you know, they can get the photos to myself or to my rep. Sometimes, so yeah, sometimes I do, but it's not always the case, because, you know, even to get the photos onto the computer from an SD card, from what I understand, can be a lengthy process.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't happen the first day, it'll happen like a few days later.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, I know, you know, when I have acted like in some films and things, my friends or whatever will say, how's the movie going to be? I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know which takes they're going to use. I don't know which scenes they're going to use. I might not be in the film by the time they're done editing it. I mean, I was just wondering if, you know, is it the same thing, or do you know, it's going to be this shot and then I'm going to do this shot, or if the camera's rolling the whole time and they say, wow, this is, you know, breathtaking, we're using this. You know, so do you know exactly what is going to be used, or ultimately, I guess what I'm asking, because I talk a lot, who has the ultimate say over what photos are used?
Usually for very simple projects, it's something between myself and the photographer or the brand that I'm working with. But for something bigger, even for magazines, sometimes they more or less have more of the final say, because it's their magazine and they're the ones publishing you on their platform, which to me makes perfect sense. But again, at the same time, like, if you as a model, or even your rep, if you guys are looking at your images and you're thinking, oh, we don't want these out there, they don't look great, then I guess to put it simply, you wouldn't market them, or you wouldn't put them out at all, or you wouldn't even put them out on display for your portfolio. So for
Sure.
the most part, for you as an individual doing your thing, or even your team, you know, managing your brand, you just wouldn't put out something that's not nice or not suitable.
Sure. Yeah. And I wasn't thinking anything like nefarious or anything. I'm just thinking you're at a photo shoot and sit down and grab a magazine that you're thumbing through. You think you're off. The photographer says, wow, that is fucking gorgeous, and snaps some pictures and ends up, saying, what do you think of this? I know it wasn't anything, but, whether it's the light, whatever. Has that ever happened where maybe you're not quote unquote on, but you see a picture or a picture gets used and you say, wow, that's really a different look.
Oh, most definitely. And, I won't lie, like I can be very self-critical sometimes. So often, when photos are finalized and I see them, sometimes I can even be surprised myself because, again, sometimes you're on set and you do feel a little bit off. I mean, we're all human. And therefore you think that maybe I don't look so great in these images. So that has definitely happened a few times. I try to be as positive as possible. So I never turn up to a shoot or be halfway through a shoot and think, oh my gosh, I'm doing so bad, because your mood, especially in photos, surprisingly, can definitely show. So if you're not happy, that's going to come out in the images. And that's one of the pieces of advice I was told at the very beginning. You definitely don't want any of that.
Yeah. It's right, especially with the equipment that they use nowadays. I mean, someone could be, standing inside your eyeballs for all intents and purposes, and yeah, if you're thinking about, did I leave the blow dryer on, that's probably going to be picked up. So what's your favorite movie, Jasmine?
I don't have one as such. Like I have a few different movies, but there's one movie that I would like watch and repeat. And it stars Jennifer Lopez. It's called Made in Manhattan.
Okay.
I personally just love the storyline and just how the actors were. I found it pretty funny, but pretty romantic at the same time.
Okay. I've never seen that. I think I fast forwarded, but I've seen parts of it. Jennifer Lopez, I think, is actually not like, she's a pretty good actress, really. I probably sound like a douche saying that, but I was surprised, you know, the when I've seen some of her movies. I know my girlfriend loves a lot of her movies, and I was surprised, like, wow, she actually got some chops. Who is your favorite actor or actress?
I have a few. I tend not to like just have one because, to be honest, there's a lot of actresses and actors that inspire me, and Jennifer Lopez is definitely one of them. Scarlett Johansson is also another. Fran Drescher, when she was in The Nanny back like in the
Mhm.
90s, I found her performance really cool. Like she just
Can you
can
do her
definitely
voice?
put a character on. What's that? Sorry?
Can you do her voice?
No, I'm not as talented as her in that way. But I always just, I don't know, I always just loved the show and what she was, the kind of character she played. I think that was just so cool.
Yeah, I agree. So as we're wrapping up here, Jasmine, again, thank you so much for taking time out of your Friday. I'm not going to ask you who's going to win the basketball game tonight, because I found out it doesn't work like that, even though it's Friday there. Who's the most famous person you've ever met?
Um, oh my gosh, that's actually a good question. I wouldn't exactly say this was. So I think I'd put it into two categories actually. First off, I remember when I was in acting classes, which I'm still doing now, the school managed to get an actor who played in the The Hobbit.
Mhm.
So he played, I think it was a supporting role in that film as one of those creatures. I don't even know what they're called. But he was actually very down to earth. So at the time, the classes were still done via Zoom because of again because of what was happening. And they managed to get him on as a, I guess as a guest. So we were able to ask him questions. So that was, I think, one of the most famous people I met. I do remember last time when I was in LA, I had the opportunity to meet a DJ who was very successful, and from time to time, we still send messages. He's pretty cool, and he's won, I think, a few Grammy Awards. So I haven't met anyone who's like, I guess I haven't met Jennifer Lopez yet, or anyone in that sort of line, but I would love to meet her and I guess meet a lot of people because, to me, they're very inspiring. They've come a very long way.
Yeah. How wild is it to think that for certainly some people and probably a lot of people, you are the most famous person that they've met?
Yeah, no, it definitely has happened before. Like I've definitely had that sort of, I guess, starstruck vibe as such. And to me, it's just it's an honor. Like I really appreciate that. It's just amazing to see people feel that way and find what I'm doing so inspiring. Like I've had a couple of my friends shout out that, oh, I'm friends with someone who's famous. So that can be sometimes a little bit funny. But I think for the most part, again, for me, like I'm so passionate about what I do. So it's always an honor to have fans or to have people really appreciate what I'm doing. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jasmine, thank you so much again for taking time out of your busy day. I really appreciate it, and feel free if there's anything else that you want to promote that you got coming up here.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. I definitely enjoyed talking about a range of topics today. And yeah, in the meantime, for anyone who's watching this, definitely head over to my social media. Instagram is where I'm most active, so you can search me there by typing Jasmine Shojai Model. And a lot of my other links are kind of posted there as well. So for those who are specifically wondering about my reality web series or any of the other videos that I do, you can head over to the Daily Motion and just search Jasmine Shojai TV.
Awesome, Jasmine. We are going to do that, and I wish you continued success. Best of luck in all of your endeavors going forward. And have a great weekend. Start early today. Do happy hour.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your show.
All right. Thank you, Jasmine. All right. That was Jasmine Shojai joining us all the way from Australia. It's lunchtime for Jasmine in Australia now. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. And for those of you that are watching this some other time, thank you very much. Make sure that you follow, not only the show and all that stuff, but make sure you find Jasmine online and follow her social media and like all the stuff and all of those things. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate it. And I will see